local real estate entrepreneur. I have a very small company in the city named Rare Bird. I have also been living and breathing affordable housing for the past 3 years, working in the trenches with the mom and pop owners of this city and the tenants that they have. Before I get started today, I'd just like to say 2 points that boiled to my brain while sitting in the audience. One, thank you, council, for the boldness of bringing such an ordinance to this table. We are in a housing crisis. There is no doubt about that when you look through the room. I do have to say that it's very sad to watch the way that it's been brought to the table with so much disrespect that it continues to largen the divide in the room. Donald Trump politics will not solve the solution. I'm not going to sit here and get on the tunnel vision of the reality of what's going on with the tenants. It's real. It is 100% real. I see it on a daily basis. I'm also not going to sit and focus on the tunnel vision of the unintended consequences. I'm going to bring stories of real life mom and pop owners, their tenants, my tenants to the table so you can see who we are. And I also want to provide a possible solution that I hope the City Council seriously considers. So I'll get on with my stories. I'm going to talk about seller G and A, owners of 14 units within a couple miles of here. When we met them, they had 14 units. They now have 10. We bought a 4-unit building from them. They lived in 1 unit. One tenant moved in with another tenant, and the 4th tenant was moving out when we bought it. I'm proud to say that we have 3 market rent tenants in that building now, subsidizing the tenant that we inherited that is a minority school teacher, a minority social worker, and is paying $400 less than market rent. I'm going to talk about owners D and W that owned 8 units in the city of Portland that sold us a 6-unit building. I didn't know the tenants when I made the offer and we had an agreed upon purchase price of that building. 5 minutes of walking on site, I knew we had to completely rearrange that purchase of that transaction. All 6 tenants were past homeless, past alcoholics, past veterans, and they were all getting privately subsidized rent, 60% of market rent. I'm proud to say they've lived there for a year since we've owned the building, absolutely no rent increase, and they still are privately subsidized. I'm going to talk about S&C, owner of 9 units. We bought a 3-unit building from them. We just recently, unfortunately, had to give a 10% total cost of living increase. 5% of that comes from water increase, 5% came from rent increase. They're still paying $600 a month when market rent's $800, and their water bills are still 20% of our rent that we get, which we pay. I'm going to talk about M&G, who are...
Sir, I have to say, before the mayor's going to cut you off because of time. And
Yeah.
You
Should I get to my solution?
Well, I was going to ask you to just give us your solution.
Yes, gotcha. Mom and pop owners, 20-unit buildings and less, own 80% of the units in our town. If you can remove mom and pop owners from the equation, don't legislate based on portfolio size. Legislate based on building size and owner turnover. This is where the problem truly is. If we can understand who your enemy are, the larger developers that have a huge impact in our marketplace, and who your allies are, the mom and pop owners like myself, the mom and pop owners in this room who want to privately subsidize our units, need to be brought to the table. I'm not trying to...
We're going to have to,
Yeah.
we got 100 people.
Okay.
You're saying you define mom and pop as 20 units or 50.
I do.
I'm not arguing, I'm just
Yes,
asking.
yes.
And you've made
Correct.
2 other suggestions, so thank you very much.
Yes, one last thing. Mom and pop owners can't handle a $10,000 to $20,000 increase to their price. These are the people we need to buy buildings. The developers can write the $100,000 checks for the Normandy and the Titan Manor. That's what we need to control. Please bring us to the table.
Please send us the rest in writing.
Yes, I've got it. I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And by the way, that goes for anybody. If you decide you can't stay, we will take for the testimony as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. My name is Barry Whitehill Benziuk, and I've been a realtor in the city for over 20 years, and I work primarily with investors. I see, and most of my clients see this ordinance at first glance, and they look good on paper, but the long-term negative unintended consequences are great.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry. Most people, primarily and most significantly, those consequences will be a shrinking of the number of units in the rental pool. And the reason is that most Most people who own these properties are small investors, and they bought these properties for supplementary retirement, or college fund, or home for themselves in the future when they want to downsize, or for their parents when they age. These people, for the most part, never keep their rents up to the true with current market rents. Their goal is to keep their tenants for longer periods of time. It's not uncommon for them to have the same tenant for 5 years or longer, hence the rents are lower. Now they're feeling threatened. The legislature in Salem has bills before it talking about rent freezes or rent control, and now we have this. And I had a big section here that your amendment takes all of that out. So the question many of them have, though, is it worth it? And I've read many comments online, and I've had numerous conversations with clients and colleagues. What appears to be happening is that many of them are just saying, no, it's not worth it, and they will sell their property. If they choose to do so, other investors will not be purchasing these homes. They will become more occupied, thereby removing these units from the rental pool. Less units in the pool means higher rents. Simple supply and demand. The opposite of what you're trying to achieve. The one thing that nearly everyone in this room can agree with is the need for affordable housing. That's a community issue. However, although it is a community issue, the only people asked to, no, forced to, contribute to the solution are private property owners. Look at the current landscape. Inclusionary zoning, people who own property zoned for apartments have just seen the value of that property reduced by a minimum of 30%. Potential rent freezes in Salem, neighborhood associations discussing becoming historical districts, thereby making it increasingly difficult for developers to build apartments. Now this. Although it's a community issue, the community is not being asked to assist in the solution. Property owners have been cast as the bad guys. I'm not certain what the community solution is, because I have little faith that the Portland community would vote for a tax increase to supplement someone's rent. What we need is a holistic approach, not piecemeal legislation with no vision as to how each one impacts the other. Government and the community as a whole have to be part of the solution, not just one section of the community.
Thank you.
Hi. Move the mic over if you could. The whole thing slides down if you want. The whole wooden structure slides. There you go.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners and Ms. Clough. I am Ramona Foster. I'm better known as Mama Mona with No One Left Behind. I work with the homeless, but I am here today representing myself. I was served Sunday night a no-cause eviction. Last 18 years, I dedicated 100% of my life to helping the less fortunate with a hands up, assisting them with different agencies that have been mentioned today. And now I need help myself. So, the vote on the relocation ordinance, but each one of us today here and each one of you on the city council, I want you to know my personal experience is it's been a shock. It's raised my blood pressure now since Sunday. The owners of the complex, the 92 unit that I live in, the satellite apartments in Park Rose, was built in the 60s. I took care of the, I'm gonna wrap this up. I took care of the Mrs. Johansson who, into her 90s, and she wanted the units to remain affordable for families. Well, she's passed on and she's not happy today, I can tell you that. Anyway, I have a disability, I'm on SSI. Thanks for moving me up so I could share briefly. Vote yes, please.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony. Thank you for being here. Thank you. So we'll recess for about 7 minutes. Thank